Hi one and all, welcome to the debut episode of the Toony Toonz show. Now before we get started, I'd just like to give a big shout out to the co-founders of this project, the Gauteng Film Commission, for making this show possible. Now this is our very first episode and we'd like to make it worth your while with a groundbreaking and an absolute legendary actor, Luthuli Dlamini. Now you do not want to miss that. But first and foremost, an introduction to our correspondents, Cucumber, Panda, and Banana.
Oh, wait. Sorry, that bar's not live yet.
What? Production was supposed to go live today.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, bro. What is the animators ran out of ink or something?
Don't even want to know what's going on that side. Alright guys, sorry about the whole mix. We're gonna have to do the whole intro another time or something. Anyways, give it up for the Toony Toonz squad. Ladies and gentlemen, Toony Toonz squad. I don't know what you guys are doing. I don't know what's going on that side, but we're glad you're here. We're glad you're alive. Well, for some of you anyway. Well now, without further ado, let's dive into today's episode with Luthuli Dlamini. Finally, we get together. About time. It's a small idea.
I swear there's a demon out there that doesn't want us to talk.
Okay, so anyway, so this meeting has been, we've been waiting to make this happen for some time now.
Very coming.
Yeah. How is it? But how are you actually? How are you doing?
I'm good. It's been a very long day, but very productive. So it's been busy, and we like it like that.
Yeah, like in the industry. I mean, you've been in the industry for quite a long time. How many years has it been so far?
Over 20 years. I've been acting since I was 9, 10, and 20 years. Over 20 years on television and in the industry here in South Africa. Yeah.
20 years. So that's 20 years here in South Africa.
Yes,
Okay.
That's correct.
So did you start outside of South Africa though?
Yeah. So I mean, I've always so my grounding was in theatre, and pretty much from 9, 10 every year up until about 20 years ago, 25 years ago. I was always in some kind of a theatre production.
All right.
So that was my grounding through school, through secondary school, through varsity, through my career. I was always on stage at least 2 or 3 times a year. And that was really my grounding over the years.
All right. That's interesting. I mean, you said you started when you were 10 years old. What were some of the things that you were doing when you were 10 years old? Like, I can't imagine myself acting when I'm 10 years old, unless if my parents put me to it or something.
So first stage play was when, like professional, if I can call it that, was at the Bulawayo Theatre. And the play was called The Baobab Tree. And I played the wise owl and the monkey.
How did that work out?
It was brilliant. I think I absolutely loved it. It was nice to be in a theatre, professional theatre, with an audience for the first time. I mean, a significant audience. I loved it. I think that just cemented my love for the industry. I knew I wanted more. It was a great. I played 2 characters in one play, I think that's where that cemented the bug.
All right. So you are Zimbabwean born. Okay. When did you move to the UK actually?
1967.
1967. Okay. Those were rough times. So.
They were. This was the beginning of, it was like the continuation of the struggle movement. And it was at that time a Pan-African kind of a mentality in struggle movement. So, the guys from Fort Hare. I remember my uncle, my late uncle, my dad's big brother, was at Fort Hare with the likes of Joshua Nkomo, Mandela, all of those guys. And it was more of a Pan-African mentality that they had, a consciousness, a movement. Do you know what I mean? So, and then, of course, it developed international movements. I remember them talking about and espousing the dreams of Kwame Nkrumah, Pan-Africanism, one state, one Africa, so it was more of a Black consciousness movement then in the 60s. And this was also a period called the Windrush period in the United Kingdom, where the United Kingdom basically needed cheap labor, and they sourced the cheap labor from the Commonwealth countries. So you became a British subject, and you're allowed to enter the United Kingdom and get an education, work, and so on and so forth. So my parents took advantage of that. My mother left first as a nurse. I left a year later when I was a year old with my father in 1967. And grew up, spent those early years of my life in the United Kingdom. In that, one can only describe as a tumultuous period racially. This was like I say, it was Windrush. So a lot of colonials were arriving in the United Kingdom, but also as was it who said winds of change? The winds of change speech. I think it was Edward Heath. I can't remember. Don't quote me on that. Was talking about the winds of change sweeping through the Commonwealth. In other words, the uppity niggers wanted freedom throughout the Commonwealth. These were the winds of change speeches. So that was a time, and also in the United Kingdom in the 70s was, this is also the period when the movement called the National Front, which was an extreme right movement, a racist movement. The National Front, these were skinheads, shaved their head bald, their whole look and their... So this was a time of extreme racism as well in the United Kingdom. Skinheads would attack and beat up Black people, African people, Jews, Indians, anyone from the Commonwealth basically was fair game. And funny enough, you'd never get one skinhead who came to attack you. They were always in groups, you know what I mean? I had a few instances where I had to run for my life, literally. But you'd never get one of them coming for you. It was always a group of them, I suppose. They knew the strength of their opponents, I suppose. I don't know. Including the Jews, which kind of took away the whole racism thing, which became confusing. So it was a tumultuous period in the world at that time. The 70s, late 60s, early 70s to mid 70s was very tumultuous.
Yeah. So how did that? I'm trying to kind of go through this whole journey of you being Zimbabwean born in a foreign country and you have these aspirations. Surely that would have affected your career in some way. How did that affect your career and your aspirations at some point?
It fueled my imagination, and it fueled the need to tell stories, true stories. When the very early days, early days of my life, I remember aunts and uncles traveling from Africa, both South Africa and Zimbabwe, and they would come and stay at our house in the United Kingdom for a couple of months, as they would find their universities, or they would be sent to wherever they were sent by whichever organizations, ZIPRA, ZANU, ZAPU, ANC, PAC, and they would come and because of the size of the house, some of the uncles and aunts mostly the uncles would stay in my bedroom with me, so we'd have a couple of beds, and so I'd sit and I'd listen to their stories of where they come from and their detail them, and they were great storytellers. Well, I remember an uncle of mine, Uncle Joram, would tell me about how he had to leave the urban areas, travel through the bush, cross rivers with crocodiles, avoid the Rhodesian forces, watch some of his friends get shot as they were.
That just a little bit, in terms of what your plan is and where you're moving towards, just to give an overview of that. But maybe first and foremost, getting into young people, youth.
Right. So through a program that we've been working with for the last 4 or 5 years called Behind the Blazer, we've been traveling throughout the country, working with grade 10s. So we select a region, select 10 schools, select 15 kids, grade 10s from the 10 schools, and spend a week at each school, teaching them the very basics of acting, directing, writing, camera work, sound work, and a little bit of editing. But we also speak a lot about what we're trying to introduce into the minds of the youth is the business of our industry. It's no longer enough just to go in front of camera and act. Now we want them to understand that somehow they have to make money out of acting, make money out of stories, scripts, the media industry, so on and so forth. So we try and let them understand how the industry works. You got to remember that we have limited time with them. And the intention really is to just get them interested and give them a better understanding about the industry that they are interested in. So we touch on the subjects, we touch on them, we don't go into detail. But we found that it's enough to get them interested and get them motivated. And I tell you, the talent out there is amazing. And we prefer this approach to, we still do workshops. The problem we found with workshops is that you go in, you do a workshop for a week and you leave. And when you go back the next year, you see the same faces, the same hungry faces, the same talented faces, waiting for something to happen. And those that aren't in the cities, Johannesburg, Durban, Cape Town, the small towns, don't have access to the industry at all. Sure. So they sit there with this yearning to get into the industry, with this wonderful talent and potential. And nothing happened. So we introduced this Behind the Blazer project, just so as to give them a little bit more ammunition to prepare themselves to come into the industry when the time is right, after matriculation, tertiary. So we sort of guide them as to the different institutions, access to the industry, depending on which one of the various topics they want to go into. If they want to be a director, we kind of let them know what's required of them: a good command of English, a good eye for color, and so on and so forth, storytelling, narrative. But what we found is that everybody has a story to tell. Everybody. These kids are amazing, and their imagination, thank God, hasn't been blinkered. So their imagination goes, we get inspired with some of their ideas, because what we do is, after the workshop and after teaching them how to use the various instruments, camera work, and the very basics of writing a script, 3-act structure, and so we then give them the camera. They separate themselves into the groups: the camera crew, the director, the writing crew, the actors, and the sound guys. And we give them the equipment, and they go and they spend a day shooting their movie. So they spend one day writing the script. The next day, after the workshop, of course, they then take all the equipment, go out, and they shoot the movies. We give them a subject, topic, and a genre. And they go out there and they go and shoot. And it's amazing the things that they come up with the very little that they have. Inspiring. I mean, one young lady wrote a ghost story. and devised a plan, a method of making a metal tray move on the table. Amazing, and they had a magnet under they had a magnet under the table, and they used that magnet to make the tray move like a ghost. So that kind of talent is out there, and it's incumbent upon us, those with the experience, to teach them and conscientize them and allow them to understand that the sky is the limit when it comes to their imagination and their creativity. But what's also important is a basic understanding of the business of our industry. So we introduce them to terms like distribution. What is distribution? Why is distribution important? How do you access distributors? And that's at grade 10.
Yeah.
So, you can imagine, what then happens once they get into the afters and the varsities and the tertiary education. They're already prepared, and they're on a more than equal footing than their peers when they get into those schools. And it's the most inspiring and rewarding work on the planet. A young lady, I attended some award ceremony, and this young lady, unbeknownst to me, got up on stage and she recognized me, and was able to say, "Look, I'm here because of those guys down there," and nearly brought tears to my eyes. And I say nearly because I don't cry. I'm not that. I'm a toughie. But it's the most rewarding and inspiring work out there.
Hi guys, welcome to our new space. Thanks for watching. If you watched till the very end, we just like to give you a massive shout out because you're a rock star. Now do like, do subscribe, do leave a comment, and hit that notification bell because you do not want to miss any content that will be dropping in future. Now, with all that said, we just like to say it's Toony time. See you next time and God bless.